Good morning to you. Of course, it's time for us to jump into the big stories of the day as we get right into your newspaper review this morning. This is most definitely K24 television. And I can see the country slowly getting up. Alex Chicks Wanjohi, good morning team. Tuned in from Eldoret. Duncan saying a big good morning. Watching from Homa Bay. We also have Bob Owino saying Kisumu is awake. And thanks God for this morning alongside your great company. As always, I'd love to know where we're getting us from as well. Tell us where you are and how your morning is so far. You can tweet us at K24. You can also SMS us on 21222. Lots for us to discuss this morning on the show. But as always, look at the front pages of each of the dailies first and then introduce our guests as we get into the newspaper review proper. Front page of the Standard, Wairimo, free me to fight for my property. Wife of slain businessman Tob Cohen wants court to release her on bail to allow her fight for a 400 million shilling house in Nairobi, among other properties. That's what makes the front page of the Standard right there. Front page of the Star, matters political. Kenyatta to skip Mariga's Kibra Jubilee campaign. Mariga is being fronted by DP Ruto in candidature that has split party. IBC clears former footballer as ODM prepares for contest. That's the story that you can get right there. And of course, the picture of a very jubilant Mariga flanked by Boni Halwale and other supporters right there. This, of course, are the IEBC offices as the ruling was given yesterday. The verdict was read yesterday. That can be found on the front page of the Star. Front page of the Daily Nation, Ministry clears the air on grade 3 tests. It's official. Learners will not sit any examination or receive individual scores after assessment. Neither will there be ranking of schools based on performance monitoring exercise. Just clearing the air as far as what this assessment is concerned and what it portends, of course, for the schools moving forward on this. Today has been billed as D-Day with teachers preparing for exams. But of course, the ministry also clearing the air that even as it stands today, it's not only a week-long exercise, but it proceeds throughout the better part of the term. So there's no need for that rush that has been communicated previously. Front page of the People Daily. Police open probe in school cyberbullying. Consolata incident elicits sharp reactions from angry Kenyans. That's a story that we'll be talking about as well in plenty of detail right here as we get into the paper review. And last but not least, of course, front page of the Business Daily. Borrowers in default on 21% of mobile bank loans. At least 1 in 5 loans have not been repaid since 2017, compared to 10% of customers who take regular bank loans. Bankers Lobby says in a new report that has been published and, of course, can be found in your copy of the Business Daily. Plenty of stories to go through and, of course, your input on them and what you're feeling about the news invaluable as well. So once again, please feel free to tweet us at K24 TV right there. I'm joined by Lugari MP Bishop Titus Kamala. Lurambi MP Bishop Titus Kamala. Morning.
Good morning. How are you? Yeah, I'm from Lurambi constituency.
Thank you for...
That is Kakamega town, all the way to Bukura.
I hope they're watching as well.
Yes,
I hope you told,
of course.
You told them.
Great. They love K24.
Fantastic stuff.
They work so hard. They get up very early in the morning, so they are up and watching. Fantastic
stuff. Yeah. I'm sure they'll be weighing in on the views as well. Plenty for us to discuss right here as we get into the newspaper preview. Let's start off with the front page of the Standard, even as we look at this particular story. The court also talking about the fact that the media shouldn't report too much on what's going on here, the court proceedings as well as the investigations on this particular issue. So it's something that we'll wait and see on this particular story. But also, matters politics. Every single day, the front page, as soon as the papers are printed and go to press, there has to be a political angle to every story we're looking at. And the Standard promising us that and giving us one right there.
It's like the election cycle never ends.
Is that how it is?
That's detrimental. That's terrible.
Once you've gotten into office,
that's terrible.
Does the campaign season begin right after that?
You know, we are a country that is on an election mode. That's terrible.
Who's to blame for that? Who do you think?
Kenyans, politicians, and Kenyans, because there's just a push, you know. There is just that push, and also it's greed. People are greedy for power. Because already you have not even served 2 years, you are thinking about another 5.
Right.
Why don't you do what you can do for now before you think about the next?
Right. Yeah. And we'll be talking about that as well. But let's look at what has been on the front page of the Standard. Raila Party refunds Kibra aspirants after sham election. ODM hands each aspirant 250,000 they had paid for nominations. Following revelations, party officials orchestrated doctoring of the voters' register. Bishop Kamala, let's look at this and just think about this in the sense that once we feel that internally the mechanism is put in place that should actually be the fortress for democracy hadn't been found there, what does it mean for the actual election and also just democracy as a whole? Because if you can't actually believe that your party will do the proper thing in nominations, what is left in the faith of democracy.
And that is the problem we are having, because if we are going to talk about electoral fraud, you know, we think about election malpractices, sham elections. If we cannot put our act together internally, then we don't even have the moral standing to blame IEBC. So now in such a situation like this, whereby already people are crying foul, the nominations were not done fairly, and even the party leader of ODM, and I'm not a member of the ODM party. I'm not even supposed to speak on behalf of ODM. I am a member of the Amani National Congress of Musalia Mudavadi, and we have a candidate in Kibra whom I should be talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you look at all these things that have been happening in ODM, that's why ODM, once such a huge party, has lost a following. Because, you know, when you lack that internal democracy, the basic primary democracy whereby nominations can be handled in a fair way. Because you realize the party themselves are crying foul. The party leader of ODM is crying foul. They are all annoyed because it was not done right. So like me, I am the Bishop of Cornerstone Ministries, apart from being the Member of Parliament. Now when things are not right in that church, whom are they supposed to blame? The buck stops. It stops with me. That I, as the leader, I am not doing what is right. So with the political parties favoring candidates and going for the highest bidder, this drama, Afro cinema, continues.
Right, right. And let's talk about Afro cinema, because we've seen that in several shapes and forms. And luckily, we have someone who's sitting on both sides. We've seen what has happened in various churches over the past 2 weekends, with politicians going to the pulpit and a bit of a furore happening right there. You, luckily, leading the church and also leading the constituency, where should the divide?
You know, I was, the other day, Linda of KTN hosted me over the same. And for me, I feel all these fights, like what we saw with the Honorable Maina Kamanda and Dindi Nyoro in Muranga, in Kiaru, all these things are happening because there is a lot of poverty that has made it difficult for church people to give money. Because where do the church derive their revenue from? It is through offerings and tithes. That is the biblical way. You know, people have to bring their tithes, have to bring their offering. But now, because the economic times are so difficult, many people don't have jobs, and others have also absconded their spiritual obligation. You know, they have just negated it completely. Because when there is this element of the big man syndrome, you know, Mheshimiwa is coming, Makofi, Mheshimiwa, Karibu, you know, Karibu. Then you give a big seat for Mheshimiwa to come. So Mheshimiwa is the one to buy the plastic chairs. Mheshimiwa is the one to buy the keyboard. Then so many things will go wrong. But if Christians can have value in themselves, have dignity, and that's why we are really hoping for a just Kenya for all, whereby, you know, everybody has a share of income. Now, for example, if you have 100 church members, and each one of them is faithfully giving 1,000, and many say, I can't, Bishop, I can't give 1,000. But when you check their phone, how much airtime they have used in a month, they have used 2,000. But Bishop, some people are saying probably the solution to all of this murky, you know, gray area that we're finding ourselves in is to just put the fact that if it's a church, not unless you're a member of parliament and a bishop like yourself, you get to the pulpit. But all the other leaders can address the congregation outside in other areas. It is wonderful, but you see, what you are simply doing, you are approaching the tree with its leaves. Me, I had taken you to the roots. Let us remove the big man syndrome from our country, whereby the Bwana Kubwa thing is not there. Whereby when you go to church, whether you are governor or you are the president, the deputy, or the political party leader, you are there to worship like another person. If you have 100,000 to give, praise God. God has blessed you in that measure. Put it in an envelope, put it there. But you know, the feeling is that Mheshimiwa has come. So the fundraising is to see Waheshimiwa giving. Now, as we blame the Waheshimiwa, we must also blame the congregation that somehow they have absconded their duty. They have to rise up to the call of duty and realize that the church doesn't belong to Mheshimiwa, or this Mheshimiwa has the money, is the one to give. Once we remove him from that big man syndrome, we want now Mheshimiwa to come to church and say nothing. and worship.
Okay,
and see how long they'll continue coming.
Okay, we'll see how that will play out across the churches across the country. We're going to take a short break and continue the news super review right here on K24 TV. As always, keep your SMSs coming in on 21222. You could also tweet us at K24 TV. Back with plenty more after the break.
Find out what's on our newspapers today as we also expound on the headlines only on K24 this morning. Next, all the news briefs and happenings around the counties on the Daily Brief. And later, news stories and ways to shape up the business